Welcome to the channel. Okay, so engineering test mode can be tricky to get to. This is the way that works for me. The first thing is to remove as many startup messages on the cluster as you can. So all doors closed, seatbelts latched, what have you, anything that would generate a message on the screen. Yeah, you want to stop those from happening because it can be confusing. Once you've done that, hold down the OK button on the steering wheel for at least 5 seconds, then keep holding and start up the truck, engine running. When the truck starts, after the truck graphic appears on the screen, you should be able to let the OK button go and the engineering test mode display should appear. If it doesn't, it may be behind one of the messages that you've got on the screen already. So try saying OK to that message and it may pop up behind. If not, try and remove those messages and start again. Eventually you'll get to engineering test mode. So there are some neat things in here to look at. The most common usage for us is to do with fuel economy, and you can get there immediately by hitting the up arrow. We won't do that. The displays are circular scrolling, so we'll cover the economy last in detail. We're going to use the down arrow one at a time. So the first thing we come across is the gauge test. That's where I got that photo from on the Facebook post. If you run the gauge test, that's where you can see all of the gauges being swept. You can also see, if you watch closely, the transmission temperature gauge turn red even though the numbers underneath are not changing. That's just to signify that if you got to that point, there's probably nothing you'll be able to do with the truck anymore. Okay, the next test is the telltale and colour test. What that does for us is it lights up every single indicator on the dash. So if you were wondering where one particular indicator is of a situation, like airbags for instance, you'll find that on the telltale and colour test display. After that, we have a whole bunch of partial part numbers, read-only memory levels. None of this is interesting or useful to us from that point of view. Manufacturing information. Another one that's useful is to display all diagnostic trouble codes. Now, whether or not this does display all of them is something I'm not sure of. I currently don't have any, but I would use a tool like ForeScan because I doubt that this DTC display would give you all of the kinds of detail that you can get out of ForeScan or another scan tool potentially. You see gauges data there. That will constantly change while you're operating the engine. You see that you have one fuel sender in your fuel tank. The fuel calculations, if I'm just sitting there in park at idle, zeros. But if you were actually driving, you could use engineering mode while driving and see more information there. What else we got? Values used for the distance to empty calculation. As you see, they're currently matching up here, and it doesn't really mean much to us. Another interesting one is the raw average fuel economy figure that the truck uses for distance to empty calculations. Now, this raw figure is instantaneous and is being provided before any processing by the cluster module, the IPC. We'll talk more about fuel economy later on, but that is an interesting thing to realise, that the raw economy right now is not the same as when it's been processed by the system. The next thing we have information on the fuel sender, again not useful to us, engine coolant temperature, engine failsafe cool mode. The failsafe cool mode, you are want to see zeros there. Zeros means success, so normal operation. And if you had a engine failsafe cool mode that was not zero, you would have a serious problem with the cooling system. Next thing we have is the transmission fluid temperature. If you don't actually have the temperature displays added by ForScan, this is useful to you to see what your transmission temperature currently is. You have turbo boost. As turbo is actual measurement of vacuum. It's negative there. Doesn't mean much for a 5 litre like I have, but for your eco boosts it may be more realistic. After that we have the trip meter stats. That's all able to be seen in normal display. You do have a look at your battery voltage, your compass to see if it's working right, and the last chimes you've received. They have chime numbers assigned in the system, again not relevant to us. After that we have the brightness level of the display that you can see here. There are 6 dim levels for day and 12 dim levels for night. These are reflected in your display when you use the buttons beside the light control to adjust the brightness level of the display. I have some more irrelevant information for us anyway. Switch data, analog to digital ports, and after that we finally come to something that we want to look at. It's the average fuel economy bias factor. Anyone who has hand calculated their fuel economy knows that the truck is reporting better fuel economy than what you see when you hand calculate it. The way to match up your truck with your hand calculations is to adjust this AFC bias factor. It will start out by default at 1000. If your truck is reporting better than actual fuel economy hand calculated, then you need to lower the number from 1000. If the truck is reporting worse fuel economy than your hand calculated, then you need to raise the number. To bring back the truck from being optimistic, I've had to lower my number. Now, this is a matter of fine-tuning. Before you even start, it's a good idea to hand calculate at least 3 full tanks to get an idea of what your hand calculated fuel economy is to start with. Once you've done that, you can start adjusting the number, and you can do it basically in percentage terms. So if the truck's reporting 1% better fuel economy than actual, then you would lower this number by 1%. When you adjust this number, you may find eventually that you've reached a point where the truck is reporting worse fuel economy than your hand calculation, in which case you've got to raise up the number again. So it's just a matter of fine-tuning. I ended up, as you see there, at 964 for my number, and the way you change that, of course, is to enter the setting with a OK button and use the plus and minus on the steering wheel to adjust the number, as you can see here. After you've done that, you're back to the engineering test mode screen when you scroll once more. To get out of engineering test mode, simply turn the truck off. Thanks for watching, and see you on Facebook.